Hello, happy new moon eve. Tomorrow is the new moon in Leo, and we are also in the Lionsgate portal. So Lionsgate lands on August 888, and we are already in the energies that are preparing for that next transition. So what are you working with? Right? What is your intention? What is your co-creation that is moving you forward in your journey right now? So welcome. It's Lotus. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing if this resonates with you. So also over on Patreon, I did the new moon light language activation and meditation, and it is up over there. If you aren't a member, you can either become a member or you can purchase it directly on Patreon. So I invite you to that activation. We were talking about in that and just like activating our own co-creation, but not necessarily in the normal action-oriented of Leo. So, Leo the lion. Leo has that large, big, celebratory, light, love, and joy energy. And who doesn't love all of that, right? But what was coming through that we were really focusing on is, of course, the new moon deals with the internal, right? The moons are both feminine, so we work with that inner realm. And there are qualities that are coming forth right now that are awesome for Leo and that signify a Leo archetype or Leo personalities. And we can look at them as the ones that I just mentioned, but if we go a step higher in expression, beyond just the personality, we begin to look at the energies of nobility and regalness and deep courage and divine power. And these are very internal characteristics that are higher frequency expressions. These are the expressions that we begin to mature into as we continue to go through our evolutionary process. I think too that Leo we can also look at as really just being this energy of mastery. So it's situated here in the middle of 2025, right? And this has been a monumental year, I think, for most of us, for a lot of change. We can feel the pace of time speeding up, and we are moving in leaps and bounds through this ascension process. So I really want to talk about, in conjunction with the Leo energy, but really more so about how our divinity is showing up through an embodied perspective as we continue to grow and expand. So there are two, back in some of the Hindu teachings, and there was a book, specifically, and I don't know that I can remember it, but it was by Eknath Swaran, and I think like Conversations with Death. They talk about the egoic construct as Shreya, and then, or Preya, rather Preya, and then the essence, the soul essence of us as Shreya. And I love the way that that he described both of these, and that Preya is that it kind of fits with an ego perspective of a Leo that isn't grounded and rooted, perhaps. Not always. It's an inside job. So even a big energy that is, big and loud and kind of buoyant, depending on the rooting and the centering, doesn't necessarily need to be perceived as a big ego. And again, if you've been following me, I'm not against ego, right? I think that ego matures and purifies as we evolve, and it integrates into higher states of that aspects being that keeps us connected to this world and that keeps us operating in the 3D in ways that we need to, and yet ideally it evolves as well. So the way that Eknarthaswaran is talking about it, though, is sort of in that imbalanced perception. So, it's kind of flashy, right? Preya is kind of flashy, always wants to be out there, mixing it up, loves attention, right? Leo personalities, archetypically have been thought to really love attention, love to be the focus of attention. They're very comfortable in the spotlight. And some of us aren't, right? Which some of us, it's like it's good to have that comfort level if that's part of your journey and your service. So Preya operates on what's going on out here, right? And kind of like, what can I get? What can I get? What's my jam? And what can I get for me? And in its leadership role, it might be more of a, demanding presence or a domineering presence rather than leadership that really supports a vision and an upliftment for the whole or for the others. And that kind of loud and flash is not really grounded and rooted. It might seem super confident, right? Leo the Lions, we think about confidence, might seem super confident. However, it might be a little bit more of a fake it till you make it energy rather than grounded and rooted in a deep presence. So Shreya, on the other hand, tends to be a bit of a wallflower, tends to go a little bit unnoticed, tends to not really need the attention or want the attention. There isn't a big desire for the things of the world to be focused on and amplified. Shreya, instead, is that essence of us beneath an imbalanced ego construct, or we could say even a balanced ego construct. So Shreya has more of this subtlety. And I tend to feel both of these as like a masculine and feminine, right? The masculine more outer, the feminine a little bit more internal. So Shreya hangs back, and Shreya has nothing that she or it needs to prove. And Shreya roots deeply in the divine. Shreya understands the need for both the inner and the outer, but recognizes that without the power of the inner, an outer power is kind of cut off at the knees. It's not a true power. It's not a true courage. It's not necessarily even a true bigness and joy. Because if we aren't rooted from this deeper place within, we aren't truly connected to our wholeness. And when we look at this as far as what are we creating in the world, what are we just creating from that ego perspective in service to self? Now, we use that term a lot, service to self, service to others. Those are very black and white terms, and I think that this is one of the situations that we get into when we're looking at terms or sayings or quotes on just a surface level. We miss the nuances, right? So we have the quote, the message, which is more prayer. But if we don't understand the shreya, the subtle nuances and intonations and the subtle experiences of the soul, then we're thinking it's just this one meaning and this black and white statement. So, and I don't remember what the statement that I just used was. So whatever it is that we're creating out in the world, service to self, service to others. There we go. I had to backtrack it a little bit. We need to actually start from service to self. Service to self is, do I have self-respect? Do I have self-love? Do I have self-acceptance? Do I have self-honor? Have I taken the time to get to know myself? Have I fallen in love with my sacred shadow? By the way, over on Patreon, I have some free, they're just there for everybody, whether you're just hopping on or a free member or a paid member. So completely free processes and reflections and inquiries to help everybody work with your shadow. It is a foundation of anything and everything that we do. Unhealed shadows mean we cannot be in deeper self-love, acceptance, honor, all of those good things that let us know who we truly are. Right? So hop on over there. I'll put the link below if you're interested in doing some of those, and let me know how they're landing for you. So we have to start with service to self. We have to start with understanding on a deeper level, why am I motivated to do what I do? What is it that I'm connecting to? Is it simply for recognition? Is it simply for monetary gain? Is it simply for because I need to do something, right? This is oftentimes the things that we look at for jobs that we take, right? It's like a difference between maybe a job that serves the purpose of survival, and then what is our deeper work? What is the work in our world that is connected to more of our internal purpose? And then if we take it the step further, what is our service? How does our work, based on our deeper soul-connected purpose, allow us to come into service? And oftentimes that means that this deeper inner work has initiations of deeper learning, deeper understanding, maturation, seasoning, experience, right? So there's a lot to that. And the more grounded we are in that internal Shreya landscape of the subtleties, right? The subtleties are, I feel, in my own experience, our soul essence expressions, and these come from our divine connection. Speaking through our heart, right? Just like the dragonfly, speaking through the soul. These are voices, they're guidances that I call the soul song. What is your soul song? And how can that inner work serve others? That inner work that serves you to become and to bloom. And then how does that translate into service to others? So in this Leo time, in the momentum as we move into Lionsgate on 8/8, in the middle of this potent monumental year, and following a really powerful new moon in Cancer and then full moon in Capricorn. And that full moon in Capricorn, if you've done that that activation on Patreon, then you're probably going to understand what I'm saying. If you haven't, I highly recommend doing it anyway, because what got brought in had everything to do with the new foundational structures that are being created within us. So again, within us, anchored within the realm of Shreya, these light codes that are seeking to anchor in our own higher blueprint expressions, which are the foundation for the momentum of the second part of this year. So you're probably recognizing what we're doing in this world right now is not simple. It's not on the surface. It's got depth and girth. It is multi-dimensional, and it is divine in nature. It's exhausting, right? Because there's so much that we're moving through within our own shadows, within our lives, within the crumbling around us, and yet we're being invited during Leo season to tap into our deeper courage, our deeper power. And in order to do this, it requires a divine connection and connection with the Shreya part of us in our soul. We look around and we see Preya everywhere. And what I love about the Preya, even the name that has been given archetypically through the Hindu teachings, if we break it down into pray, right? It's like it's not even spelled as pray. It's spelled as, at least in the translation for English, P-R-E-Y-A. Pray. To pray on. Our 3D constructs prey on the consciousness, the soul energy, the energetics of humanity in general. It's just what we're accustomed to, right? Now, was the original intention, let's say, for advertising and marketing? Was that at some point maybe different? I don't know. Social media, right? Yes. Connection, learning, all of that. And yet when it isn't received or given mindfully from a place of Shreya, we look around and we see it as Preya. And when we aren't rooted in Shreya, we don't necessarily always recognize the overtness of these systems pulling us out of ourselves, right? That could be even me. right? It's any of us. And we have a responsibility, and this is part of our maturation. How and what are we receiving? And am I doing it just because I need to know, right? To kind of fill that ego part of us that lives from that ego construct. Or because, so it's like the more I know, the more confident I can feel, but it might just be a knowing from here, from the intellect. It might just be information flooding in, rather than the soul guiding what is it that I need to know for my journey. Shreya holding us and allowing us to be taught from a rooted, connected place to how does this serve me in serving you? How does this serve me in understanding myself and my inner work? And then am I utilizing what I'm learning and, right, chomping on it, breaking it down, assimilating it, digesting it, allowing the wisdom to percolate inside me so that then as Shreya, I simply can be the embodiment of that truer essence of me. So that you can be that essence of you. We don't need to shout it from the rooftops, right? We don't need to be saying my way or the highway. We recognize that there's room for all the light of each to shine. And yet, can we discern between the true essence light and false lights? These are all some of the questions that we're going to need to be paying more attention to as we continue to move forward, right? And as we continue to partake in everything that's rolling out in our world as both in service to, okay, in service to other, or in service to a consciousness that is serving self, right? So we can get a little confused in there. But when we're in here, we're like, oh yeah, I see the process and the transformation and the trajectory from inner to outer, then back in to out, versus from outer to outer to outer to outer, hoping to be filled somehow, some way, from the outside, to be seen, to be, to be popular, to know it all, right? All of those qualities are parts of that Leo that we all carry. And we get the opportunity during this season to look inside and say, oh, I wonder what parts of the Leo archetype I carry, and is my Leo anchored in Shreya or is it in Preya, right? Am I externalizing my power and my needs? Am I living from the outside in rather than the inside out by cultivating? So I think in the meditation, I used like this example of, I don't know if anybody remembers the movie or the show Kung Fu back in the 70s, or any martial arts, master, even yogic masters, right? Like the masters, the true masters, you may not even know that they're masters, right? The martial arts artists have the capacity and the power to destroy, hurt, or kill somebody like that. But when they're truly empowered in their purpose and essence, in connection with something bigger than themselves, whatever that may be, they walk around completely unnoticed. They're not advertising. They aren't putting on shows. They aren't, right? But if need be, they step in and they offer up their essence, their Shreya. And then they go back. And the Preya is different, right? It's like they're out there, they're showing, and again, it's not good or bad, it's just different stages of development. And every zodiac sign, as just one system, has both these shadows and the more developed stages. And this is part of the cycling that we get to do when we go through these celestial cycles, as we get to revisit different parts that we ourselves carry. And we get to work with them, play with them, assess them. Where am I in my development of these characteristics? So the more that we purify and harmonize and balance our holy wholeness, there is a softening that happens. There is a quieting that happens inside. There's a slowing down. What used to be a craving for maybe a lot of activity or excitement becomes a craving and a deep desire for peace and harmony. And I'm just going to leave it with this, because this is a good example between Preya and Shreya within this Leo season as well, and everything that we're moving into this next part of the year, is that the more that we come into our wholeness and the more that we embody and connect into our soul presence, we live more from harmony and peace. We live more from intuitive guidance, saying, yes, now. Yes, this. No, that doesn't feel good. That disrupts my peace and harmony. And if it isn't necessary, right? No, I don't want my nervous system to be charged in excitement in order to feel joy. So there's a wider variety of expression. However, when we first start dropping into Shreya and the power of the subtle, it can seem really boring. And it can feel like we're a little depressed as well. It can feel like we don't have our vitality in us in the same way that we do when we're in Preya. Because Shreya becomes more of a whisper that starts to balance Preya, right? Inner masculine and feminine again. This is the inner alchemy. And as Preya gets more balanced, right? Preya becomes more rooted and grounded. Preya's power becomes more true because it's coming from a source rather than a personification. It starts coming from a know thyself depth of being. And so oftentimes when that transformation is happening, there's a bit of a crumbling, and Preya gets a little anxious, like, oh my gosh, why am I so tired all the time? Oh my gosh, why do I feel depressed? Why do I feel so lethargic? Why do I'm unmotivated? Oh no, I'm not inspired. Oh no, right? Because this way of living is being matured. It's being balanced and harmonized in order to bloom forth a more full and competent and a brighter light, because that light is more deeply connected to soul, which is deeply connected to the divine, in whatever the divine is for you. And then after this stabilizes, right, we feel it. We're grounded. We're present. We're both in our body, and simultaneously we're able to expand and access greater heights. Instead of excitement, we begin to know bliss. Ecstatic joy. And we don't go up and down as much. It's not woohoo and then we crash. Instead, right, it becomes a little bit more even keel, like, wow, I feel really inspired today. I'm going to use the go window and get some things done. The next day, as you're integrating or you need more visioning, you go back into Shreya. And you listen. Maybe for a day or two, and then you come back out, right? And then you go out, oh, I want to see my friends today. I feel like being out in a healthy way. And I recognize, this is my edge, and now I'm going to go back in and spend time with me, and spend time with nature, spend time in silence, spend time in music that enlivens me and nourishes me. I'm going to eat better. I'm not going to drink as much coffee, right? Instead, I want things that are going to help me to sustain a presence of Shreya's internal connection and a joy and a celebration, which is Leo, of being simultaneously connected to life. All right. That's all I'm going to say on that. So, there you have it. Hop on over to Patreon if you would like. Thanks for subscribing here. If this content resonates with you, we go deeper over there. And we tease things apart more. So, yeah, thank you so much. Have an amazing new moon, or new moon in Leo. And I love kind of the dichotomy of that, right? Leo is that sun and bright, but the new moon is all about the internal. So we work with those polarities a little bit over there. And of course, always light language. The magic, the divine mojo that activates us to our own next levels. All right. Blessings.